let's speak about. First up, the city of Nagpur, home to the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which is into its 100th year of existence. The constituency of Nitin Gadkari and also of Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, who is also the Home Minister of the state of Maharashtra. And that goes on the boil all around Aurangzeb's grave. And this is in Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar. So there's no riot there, but there's mayhem, chaos, ruckus in Nagpur. And on a day when there were Maharashtra-wide protests organized by the Bajrang Dal and the VHP. Rahul Shivshankar, have you been able to put a pin on why is it that a city that's never seen riots in Maharashtra went on the boil?
Look, I think you have to trace the genesis of this constant angst amongst the majority over what they believe has been the secularization of history. So what has really happened is that there has been a machination by what one would loosely call Nehruvian ecosystem after independence to try and take the Hindu out of the Indian. This is an extract from my book where one of the chapters is called this. Why am I saying this? The idea was that after partition, which was traumatic, we must build a narrative that suggests that there was never ever in the Indian medieval space a fault line between Hindus and Muslims which was created by the British. That is what we've been told. Even in our textbooks we were told that divide and rule, this, that, the other. And this experiment led to the obscuring of what many people say is a sense of deep-rooted Muslim separatism which led to Pakistan. And the movement did not start, as many people say, with Jinnah. It started much before, with many people coming out, even Allama Iqbal talking about the land of the pure and so on and so forth. So a large number of settler colonialists that belonged to the Muslim religion came in waves, and they were not just interested in colonizing the country, but eviscerating what they thought was a real threat to their culture, removing Hindu culture completely. So it led to the destruction of temples, the evisceration of identities, and so on and so forth. Now, we haven't had a closure. And a closure, as I mean, a truth and reconciliation. There's a word for it in German. It's a very long word, which I have in my book, and I don't want to sort of mispronounce it here. It talks about, and people like Ashwin Sanghi, etc., who I came across their writings, etc., have talked about it. We've never had a closure. We've always been told that there is this Jamna Yamna, Tehzeeb, Ganga Jamna, Jamuni Tehzeeb, and all of this. And people like Pawan Verma have come out and critiqued it. They've said that, look, you can't just constantly go out there. In his great book, which he wrote, The Magnificent Hindu Civilization, he writes at length about this attempt. And historians that I know closely, like Romila Thapar, etc., led this drive. Now, there might have been a reason, but the fact is that that seam that runs through, I call it the primordial seam, has never really been reconciled. And there are these lingering problems. And if people will come, and for political reasons, I'm not saying that this is some great, so for political reasons, if you come out and say that, look, we are going to Aurangzeb's mazhar and we are going to pay obeisance, who are you hurting? So there is this sense of hurt. And I think that everyone in a society, if you want to be an inclusive society, you need to be sensitive to another person's sensitivities. I mean, do you have, for example, in Israel or even in Germany, a Hitler Street, do you know that the city called Stalingrad was removed from the Russian lexicon? Why? Because Stalin was associated with persecutions of minorities and majorities in Russia. Today you don't have a Stalingrad. But in India you have Aurangabad. You have, Bhaktiyarpur station next to Nalanda and several others. So I think this is the real problem.
You're,
and of
you're
course,
saying you're putting it down to the primordial,
there is
irreparable or
no, I'm not
irrepaired?
saying it's irreparable. There is a method
Not
to repair
repaired
it,
seam.
but you cannot hide history behind false narratives. You know, people accuse the BJP of being the people who are going to rewrite history. History was rewritten.
Correct.
And I have in my book annotated documents from government files dating back to Radhakrishnanji, where letters were sent out to various ministries on how to create this new narrative, this Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, which, you know, like the Prime Minister, for example, got criticized for visiting a particular Sufi saint's, well, at least going to a...
The Siddhi Said Mosque.
Yes. Now,
in
now
Ahmedabad.
and recently, for a musical event,
Yeah.
now people said that, look, while yes, you know, you could say there are a lot of things and, you know, that gentleman wrote lovely couplets and sonnets talking about Hindustan, but there were also these aspects of it, but we've never been told those aspects.
Correct.
So you can't expect one community to forget the hurt without actually having a mechanism to resolve it.
Right.
So truth and reconciliation suggested by a chief, by a justice in the Supreme Court in the context of the Article 370 judgment, I think is long delayed. I don't have much confidence in it.
Right.
Because I'll give you an example. You see, we talk about living together in complete unanimity and
Harmony.
you know, harmony, etc. But then why do we have some people talking about infidels? Why is this word used? And you know, there is a Hindi word used.
So, yeah, kafir.
So what does that mean?
Kafir, yeah.
Who is a kafir in this country? If you believe in secularism and you have resolved to secularism, why do? Secondly, I want to ask you, if a politician goes to a mazar of Aurangzeb and you know that it's going to cause hurt amongst Hindus, and yeah, politicians will take advantage of that and rally their Hindu, where are the Muslim moderates who say actually not in our name?
Correct.
So this is the real
Point
problem.
taken. Saka, your thoughts?
Okay, I'm just going to read something that one of our reporters incidentally asked a question of a senior political figure. When asked if Aurangzeb is still relevant today and whether his tomb should be removed or not, Sunil Ambekar, Akhil Bharatiya Prachar Pramukh of the RSS says, quote, I think it's not relevant. This is not Asaduddin Owaisi saying, this is not Rahul Gandhi saying or Uddhav Thackeray saying, this is Mr. Sunil Ambekar. Clearly, he's not from the Nehruvian ecosystem. Okay, so the point is, clearly, the only thing that I agree with what Rahul just said is this is being done for politics. Let's be very honest about it. It's not like being done for any altruistic reasons. This whole business of revisionist history is not confined just to India. Look at what's happening in the US. This whole raising down of the Confederate statues, glorifying slave owners. This is stuff that is happening around the world. It may be born of a certain grievance. But the point is that grievance cannot be addressed in this 21st century because the person who caused that grievance is dead and gone in the 17th century. This Truth and Reconciliation Commission that's been talked about, the only parallel that I can think of where there was actually a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and frankly, I don't know how much it actually helped that country, was when South Africa came out of apartheid in the late 80s, early 90s. They had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And
not the only country. Northern Ireland, Catholics and Protestants.
The closest, but they are of the same. I mean,
but that doesn't matter. The
both
point
believe
is
in
that
the
they're
same.
sworn
No,
to.
they're not believing in two different gods.
No, that's fine,
right?
but they believe in two different ways.
Yeah,
to get to the God, and that led to a lot of bloodshed.
No, to get to the same God.
Yeah,
anyway,
but that's
it's a minor detail.
So,
let's not
no,
belabor
but there was
that
a
point.
Truth and Reconciliation
It's
there.
a minor detail. The only example I can think of is in South Africa, and in South Africa was a living example of apartheid. Apartheid was a very real, everyday phenomena that ordinary South Africans had to face. They were not trying to correct something that happened in the 17th century. You cannot have a mentality where sins of the past have to be corrected by current generations. I mean, you're not going to become Viksit Bharat if you're going to correct 1798 historical grievances in 2025. Come on, so we have to have a forward-looking, progressive, and as Mr. Ambekar said, people in the 17th century are not relevant for today. So let's bury those ghosts. And I thought we did after 15th of August 1947, but clearly we haven't after 75 years.
So now my two
you answered my question. Why haven't we been able to bury the ghost?
So no, my 2 minutes on this whole thing. First up, let's break it down. politics, the reality on this politics is that there are 50 odd municipal corporations and municipal body elections which are scheduled in Maharashtra, and this come at the back of Lok Sabha and then a very, very long, drawn and intense Vidhan Sabha election. So now to whip up the electorate and whip up the cadre, whip up everyone, there's got to be an emotive chord, and somewhere the movie Chhava did that as and it whipped up the frenzy. The other point is, here is the problem, and I'm going to address both sides, so please give me a listen here. The first part is, the Muslim leaders of our country, when they try to stand up in defense against the so-called Hindutva forces onslaught, from my end, they are batting for the wrong heroes. So, and here is it. In Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's army, there were more than nearly 65,000 Muslim soldiers who fought for 20 odd years against the Mughals. So why not eulogize them? So Siddhi Ibrahim was a bodyguard of Chhatrapati Shivaji who saved him from Afzal Khan. The AIMIM or any other political party is not hailing him. They are not going to his mazar. Go to his mazar. No, he's a Muslim who stood up for the country and to fight for the fight against invaders. So eulogize the right kind of heroes. When you pick up a tyrant and say, I'm going to stick to the tyrant, rather than go to someone who actually built a temple, built a street, built a city, saved a king, you are choosing the wrong heroes. When you choose the wrong heroes, obviously history is going to come back to bite you. And then you tend to be adamant on that. That's one. So whipping a frenzy on that is some aspect. Because see, a lot of Islam that came after, Islam came to India in the 6th century. At the time of the Prophet, Islam had come to India. So from the 6th century till 1147 or till the 11th century, for 500 years Islam was peaceful in our country. The people were following Islam and there was no political Islam. This was not by the sword. It's by the sword when the invasions happened. So there is something that Muslim leaders in our country also need to go back to history and understand and pick up the right heroes. The second part is with the Bajrang Dal and the VHP, this whole thing of the verbal frenzy that was raised, like we raised Babri, we'll raise your grave. Now, when you try and whip up someone who's irrelevant like Aurangzeb and you make him such a big hero or a villain, why do you need to do it? He was a villain, everybody's embarrassed about it. When you're embarrassed about something, then you'll try and get defensive about it. So I think the Muslim comm also is somewhere saying that I'll have to defend it, otherwise I'll be seen as weak. Now, there is a problem there. You have to, the Muslims cannot have a perception saying that if we cede ground, if we give up all the areas that were forcibly occupied, then we will be seen as weak. Now, if that's the sentiment among the Muslims in our country, to ensure that there is, like I said, stitching up of this entire seam and the bridging up of the divide, there has to be not, there can't be denial, there has to be acceptance. Now,
no, so I agree
that
with
acceptance
you
will
on
come,
the first part.
that acceptance will come some
there's
speed.
enough number of heroes, as much as Rahul disagrees with the Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb. There are enough number of Muslims who've taken part in the freedom struggle, enough number of Muslim commanders who've,
just
who've
one
been part
second,
of
on this
Shivaji's army.
just Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb.
No, as a matter of phrase which he used.
This term used by our historians itself is distorted.
No, fair enough.
So Utpal Kumar has very rightly called the likes of Romila Thopper and all as eminent historians and not historians in his book.
I just brought it because Rahul used it, right?
The river Jamuna has got
nothing to do with Muslims.
Just give me 30 seconds.
Give me 30 seconds.
My point is that there are enough number of Muslim heroes that we've had through the freedom struggle and even before that. I agree with you. The community needs to come out and say, we don't stand for Aurangzeb. I absolutely agree with you. Where I differ is, what can a modern day Muslim living in 21st century India, one second, what can he or she do about what Ghazni did and Ghaznavi did and Aurangzeb
can I tell you?
Can I just 600,000 years
okay,
ago?
Okay, here's what they can do. Here's what they should have done after 1947. Knowing fully well that as per their own tenets of Islam, that you cannot go ahead and pray in a mosque that's been in a place that's been forcibly built, on land that's been forcibly taken, or on another religious structure.
Exactly. Good.
No, wait, well, Zaka, just hang on, just hear me out. They could have said, we don't want to pray there, right? We will not go there. What has happened is, why this entire
in
Babri...
any case,
one minute,
you can't build...
one minute, this is, I am quoting the Supreme Court judgment itself on RJB, Ram Janmabhoomi, that they have looked at the text and they have been clear and say the tenets of Islam say that land has to be bought clean with honest money. It's got to be kosher, and the masjid has to be built from brick up, right? Ground up.
So
what I'm saying
today's
is,
modern day Muslim has to now go back in history
No.
and one second, fight the litigation
allow me to
that was
complete.
there from
Allow me to complete.
and then
just one second.
correct for the
one second.
historical
Just allow me.
doings of his or her ancestors.
Just allow me to.
Come on,
Just.
of course it's easy to
Hang
say.
on. Just let me complete. What am I saying? Are we saying that all mosques in our country are no, that's not the case. There are so many mosques that have been built, and the Hindu Samaj and the general community has contributed in building those mosques. What you said, no, what can the modern day Muslim do or should have done? When the modern day Muslim inside Gyanvapi, see, there is no word called Gyanvapi in Islam. Gyanvapi is a well of knowledge. Okay, so when they know that this is not a Islamic structure, why insist on going and praying there? Why insist?
Anand, this happened in the 16th century.
No, it's happening even today.
What can he or she
Zaka,
do in
Zaka, it's happening.
2025?
Zaka, please.
No, one second.
Zaka,
Just hear me. Can I please ask?
I'll wind.
Why is,
just give me 30 seconds.
Give me 30 seconds and I'll wind. Chalak of the RSS saying, "Har masjid ke niche jaake aap kyun shivling khod rahe ho?"
No, har masjid. No.
Did he not say?
No. Har masjid.
It's not like I
invented
that
quote.
quote.
One minute. What did I say? I'm not even saying that anybody and everybody has to dig up every masjid. No. First up, when he said this, many within the Sangh were also not agreeable with him. Why? Because Sambhal is mentioned in the text. He said it with the respect of Sambhal, and because things escalated. My point is, sir, when today's Muslim, knowing very well that this is not as per the tenets of the holy book itself, not an Islamic structure, decides to go. No, wait.
Anand, you also have to understand.
No. I'll tell you what. Real. Truth and reconciliation.
No, one second.
Real reconciliation will happen when the modern day Muslim does not disrespect the Hindu faith. You're disrespecting the Hindu faith by saying that no.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Can you
I haven't
say,
had-
no,
I
one second.
haven't
Can you
spoken
say,
after
can
my
you
intro.
say, hand on your heart, that a majority of the modern day Muslim who's living in this country does not already feel politically disenfranchised?
No. It's
No,
not about
what-
political
this is all-
disenfranchisement at
What
all.
do you mean it's
point
rubbish?
is
It's
they're
not.
voting.
It's not
What do you-
about
They're
political
what do you mean it's rubbish?
No. It's not
They're
political.
voting.
No,
They're
it's not.
There is
voting.
not
It's
a
not-
single
they are
Muslim
voting
member
and
of
it's not-
parliament
no,
it's
hang
not-
on,
from the
just a
ruling
minute,
party.
just a minute, just a minute.
Not one.
No, it's all right.
Not one in
No,
the Lok Sabha.
you're again
And you're
shifting the
telling me that's
goalpost.
not,
You're
that's
shifting
not
the-
making them feel politically disenfranchised?
One second.
Okay, you can't
One
shout
sec.
over
No,
everybody.
one second.
It becomes difficult to
Let's not
speak.
shift the goalpost. What I'm trying to say is,
No.
there was a court order with respect to Sambhal, on which the entire survey was happening in the presence of both the plaintiff and the defendant. Who entered and who
Why
created?
even go
Who
that
created?
far?
No, who
Anand,
created
I
violence?
just want to make
In
one
this
small
case,
point.
in this
Please
case,
allow me.
Huh.
There was.
So
there were no-
reconciliation can
let's
happen
look at
when
Babri.
there is acceptance.
Okay, one
there is
second.
denial, or perhaps this
Without-
entire sentiment which says, no, we will continue to rub on
Without-
your wounds on your faith,
just look at
because just
Babri.
to make you realize that you were at one point in time, you were subjugated, and sometime in the future you will be subjugated. If
Look
that's
at-
the mindset, then there can be no reconciliation. That's what I'm
Look
saying.
at Babri.
Not
In
that there are
in
not
run-up-
rabble-rousers on the Hindu
In
side.
the
There
run-up
are.
to the judgment,
Yeah.
there were several attempts at what is known as a mutually negotiated settlement.
Yeah.
And they never went anywhere because of
No, the eventual
intransigence.
judgment is mirrors the 2006
That's right.
agreement.
So exactly. And I'm not for a moment saying that the mosque should have been raised, the Babri Mosque.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Egregious, wrong to have done that. But there were several attempts, and people like Sri Ravi Shankar led those endeavors with others. And even before that, there was Subramaniam Swamy, Dr. Swamy, who led those. There were many people who tried to bridge the gap and come to some sort of negotiated settlement, but it became maybe on both sides, I don't know, but no one wanted to give an inch.
No, that-
and what did you?
that
what,
does
what
not help the
happened?
politics
You had
of the
to go
day.
to the court.
See-
Luckily, in India, the majority community, unlike in Andalusia, for example, in Spain, that just went in there and said, no, hand it all back, and we're going to turn them back into churches, etc., etc. In Turkey, as you know, with the Hagia Sophia, here the majority community is still approaching the courts. And remember one thing, that even the Chief Minister Fadnavis, he came out and said that, look, we can't go around raising stuff. There is a process. This is an ASI protected monument. Now, I didn't make this an ASI protected structure. Under the Congress it happened. we have to go to court and we have to ensure
No,
that
no. See, what I'm trying to tell you.
we follow the
True.
procedure.
So, a court order, court mandated procedure was derailed with violence and rioting. Now, you cannot, there's no justification for violence and rioting. The problem is that the Muslims of India and the Muslim leaders have decided to pick the wrong heroes, one, and two, somewhere it's gotten into their head that if there is acceptance, then there will be a perhaps overall, how would I say, lowering of the stature of Muslims in India, and Muslims will feel ashamed and less dignified. Acceptance of the fact that these are all structures which are Hindu structures. These were Hindu structures.
Anand, you're talking about 17 crore people.
I
mean, you can't just
how can 17
broad brush all of them and say they're all.
Then let the 17 crores speak up and say, no, we don't want to pray there. Let them come out and say
invaders. Come on.
No, so then why is it that there is a stay on Gyanvapi and there are people who are not saying that Gyanvapi is a Hindu temple? Why is there that symbol which is
the RSS chief not talk about don't go and look for shivlings under every mosque?
No, but if there is a shivling there, will you wash your feet there? If there is a shivling there, if there is a shivling there, will you wash your feet there?
He said,
if there is a shivling there, Zaka, will you wash your feet there?
He said,
should a modern day Indian citizen wash his feet where Hindus believe there is a shivling?
To be going and looking for shivlings under
no,
every
what
mosque.
kind? It happened after Sambhal.
No, not after Sambhal.
It happened after Sambhal. It happened after the Sambhal
petition. It happened right after the Babri verdict came out.
5 years ago after the Babri verdict.
Yes, after the Babri verdict.
But he did say
it had
one
nothing
thing.
to do with
Allow me. He did say one thing, that there are 3 or 4 structures that are dear to Hindus. Let's settle those. We don't want to be going beyond that.
Correct. So those 3 or 4 structures, Gyanvapi, where a Hindu faith is coming and saying, no, even after, no, what kind of
a gun to 17 crore Muslims
so you'll hold
that Gyanvapi was raised down by
so you're okay to hold
Aurangzeb.
a gun. No, you're okay to hold a gun to 100 crore people.
I'm not.
No, so then you tell me. So why is it in Azad Hindu? Why is it in Azad Bharat, independent Bharat, that Hindus have to go and pray on the wall of the temple because they can't enter the temple?
Please go to court, sir.
So when they went to court, what happened? When they went to court, what happened? There were riots. When they went to court, when they went to courts, there were riots. So who's rioting then?
I mean,
when they went to court, there is riots and say, why did you go to court? When they don't go to court, say, why don't you go to court?
It's better कि मजार को खोद लो, but don't go to court.
No.
I mean, that's exactly what the VSP and the Bajrang are saying.
No, in Sambhal they went
raise down the bazaar.
Sambhal they went to the courts. What happened? Did they not unleash riots and mayhem?
No, one second.
Did they not unleash riots and mayhem?
I also want to make a small point. Just like the RSS doesn't speak for all Hindus, neither does the VHP and Bajrang speak for all Hindus.
No, I am not saying that there are not rabble rousers in the Hindu side. I am not saying that either. But to show that every court order that is not akin to the Muslim side and they will unleash mayhem. Why did they come out and say when the court gave an order in favor of the Hindu Paksh that there will be bloodshed on the streets? What does that mean? What kind of mentality does that show in independent India?
Do you know where the mazar is? Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is this Aurangzeb's mazar?
It's not in Aurangabad.
It's in a place called Khultabad.
Yeah.
Khultabad.
I haven't even heard of this place till this controversy.
So Aurangabad has
100 kilometers from Aurangabad.
A tomb. Yeah. People have been there, and you have to pay an entrance ticket, some 10 crore rupees to go in there. There is also in Aurangabad something called the Black Taj, which was built to commemorate his death. So there is a mazar somewhere else.
See,
there is a tomb somewhere else. So
no. It's not about the mazar and tomb. What I'm trying to say is, why is the Indian Muslim of an independent Bharat picking up the wrong hero? So you got to choose your heroes wisely.
I'll tell you one thing.
Why choose the right heroes?
Can I make a small point?
Just because
Aurangzeb is not a hero for us.
One second.
Why is Nasrallah in our country? Why is Nasrallah in our country? Why are there processions out for someone like Nasrallah in our country?
Just like you said,
our channel broke. Our channel broke 101 seconds.
RSS does not represent all Hindus. Mr. Owaisi does not speak for all Muslims.
That's right.
It's as simple as that.
I'm
so
saying,
how can you say 17 crore Muslims have chosen Aurangzeb?
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying. I'm not saying 17 crore Muslims have not turned around and told. Let's say 16 crore 50 lakhs Muslims have not turned around those 50 lakhs who continue to rub salt on the Hindu wounds.
Can I make a point, please?
Even in independent India.
Can I just make a point, please? I was very clear in the very beginning that when certain political agitationists pick up one particular issue like Aurangzeb from the Muslim side, where are the moderates in the community? We broke a story that 160 odd temples fell to rack and ruin after the exodus in Jammu and Kashmir.
Yeah.
Okay, all these years, there have been central governments, presidential rule, there have been local governments there elected by local parties. Why didn't this become an issue? Babri became such a massive issue here.
Yeah.
It became a cause célèbre for a large number of people. People built their careers on fighting Hindu extremism. How did those temples, even if
No,
it's a
because
fraction of them, one second, even if a fraction of them were knocked down, okay, desecrated, how is it that no one took out protests?
Because it's kosher in a Muslim majority state.
I don't know. I'm not saying that.
Is it
I'm just
kosher in a
asking-
Muslim
I'm asking,
majority
how
state?
is
Is that
it
the
they
mindset
weren't-
then?
How is
No,
it
one
that
second,
how
one
is it that
second.
Burhan Wani
No, no,
and
wait,
people
no,
in
no,
Bombay
on the
went
on the
and
temple-
went a
on the
person
temple-
who's hanged for terror?
Afzal Guru.
No, not Afzal Guru, my dear friend. Memon.
Memon.
When Memon was
Sayyid
hanged and Memon was his tajia went. People lined up behind him as if he was some hero. Who does he represent?
One
What
second,
does he
they also
represent?
commemorated Afzal Guru's
second.
hanging.
So
And then they
when-
say
when-
that
when
if you
this
go
list-
behind Godse,
when this
then it's a
list-
problem.
No,
Then
no,
you're
when
Hindu
this list-
separatists and you're
when
supremacists.
this,
But
when
the
this,
other
when
happens,
this
then
list,
it's not.
Rahul, when this list of 160 odd temples that were desecrated over the 30 years of terrorism in Kashmir was released, who is the chief minister of the state? when
Arey,
this-
I'm
One
saying-
second.
I'm
Answer
saying
the
to
question
you-
now.
I'm saying to
Who
you
is the
that
chief minister?
till today,
who is
till
the chief
today,
minister?
Hindu
Please name-
Kashmiris
please name. I know
are
he's a
not
good
called victims.
I know he's a good
Are
friend
not-
of yours, but please
he's-
name him.
No, he's not a friend of
I-
mine. I'm not
you certainly
friends with
have a
anybody.
history
No,
there,
no,
but
one
please name.
second, just
Please
one
name
second.
who
No,
is the
no,
chief
but-
minister
one
when this
second,
list
one
was
second,
released.
one second, just one second.
Please
No,
name
one
him.
second, one second.
I'm trying to get
It's
to a point.
Omar Abdullah is fine.
Yeah.
My point is not that. My point is where was Omar
Why-
Abdullah when this
why-
desecration was
why-
happening?
No, no, one second.
He was
Why
chief
does it have
minister.
to take?
What was it? 10
No,
years.
why
back?
does
No,
it
before
have
that,
to take?
10 years
Rahul,
Yeah.
why does it have to take an Omar Abdullah, who's a Kashmiri Muslim, proud Indian, to release this list of which are the 160 temples
So that is because
that have been
that is
desecrated
because-
in his state?
No, so I'll answer
in his
that
union
question.
territory now.
No, it's yeah.
Because
that
that
is
entire
because-
report and
yes,
that data has
at
been
the center.
collated over the last 5
Exactly,
years.
to rebuild
when
and
after the
central
last
application
5
of
years it was
application.
central
One second,
government
no,
rule.
no.
After
The
the
central
application.
government has demanded a list of desecrated
But these temples
properties to
they were all
repair them. They had to
desecrated
be-
in Azad Bharat
I
only.
just
no?
want to make a
In
point.
independent
I
India,
want to make a
under
point.
National
I'm not
Conference and
denying
PDP,
that.
I
they
want
were
to make a
done.
I'm
point.
not denying
And
that.
at that
On
time,
this
was there a
point,
national?
why did
Do you
this-
know in this country,
Right. Anyway.
my people, some of my people who were kicked out of Kashmir, you know what they're called? Migrants. Can you believe that? Can you believe anyone saying that the people who were attacked in Godhra were not victims and give them some other label?
Correct.
What would happen in
See,
this
but
country?
it all boils down to we have whipped up our own sentiments and emotion, but this is exactly what happens.
You mean
It
here
all-
in the studio?
No, it's true, we have. But it all boils down to the politics of the day. If the politicians of the day who are elected representatives have allowed all of these narratives and these mindsets to happen, then it's politics at play. Then the politicians up to them. Now, let's not forget as we wind up this, that the chief minister whose constituency is Nagpur, who started his political career from Nagpur, is also the home minister of the state. Let's hope they get to the bottom of the truth and what happens. Thanks, gents. Thanks. Intense. Thank you very much.
Intense.